Hey guys, Dustin Warncke here, getting ready to start our show, and I just thought I would give you some different intro music. This is Adam J. I think his full name is Adam J. Smith, but he's the freestyle fisherman, a fishing rapper. I think right in the Houston area where some of you guys listen, and he's got an awesome Facebook page. I'm going to plug him in the show notes if you want to go check out his stuff. But he has a song called "I Love Fishing," which I had to use for this show, man. I had to do it. This is just too much fun. So just give you a quick intro. Here we go.
And I love fishing. I can't say it enough. I'm never giving it up. I just love it so much. I love fishing. Man, I love fishing. That's just what I do. I can't say it enough. I'm never giving it up. I just love it so much. I love fishing. Man, I love fishing. That's just what I do.
From deep in the heart of Central Texas, it's the Best of the Outdoors podcast. Brought to you by Texas Fishing Game Magazine, the voice of the Texas outdoor nation. I'm your humble host, Dustin Warncke, the outdoor success guy. Awesome to have you guys on board again with another podcast. This time we're talking saltwater fishing, and really just have the chance to visit with you guys. A lot of y'all on social media. I have the chance to connect with a lot of you guys in different ways, and it's just been great. Thank you guys so much for reaching out to me. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for your support of the show and telling a friend about the show and spreading the good word about it. You can also subscribe to the podcast, which I invite you to do. It is free to do so. You get a new one of these every 2 weeks. And also, if you're listening on Facebook, if you're listening on YouTube or whatnot, subscribe to your podcast player. That way you are sure to get the newest, coolest episodes as they come out every 2 weeks, when they come out on Thursdays typically. And then if you check out fishgame.com, our little Easter egg over there is that the episodes actually come out a day early on there on Wednesdays of the week that they release, and so you can listen on your computer or on your smartphone, however you listen to fishgame.com content, or watch our videos and that kind of stuff there. That is another way you can consume the podcast. So the easiest way probably is download the Podbean app. That's where this sucker is hosted, and you can basically just download that app and check it out that way. And there are a lot of other great podcasts that are on Podbean as well. Podbean.com for that. All right, so again, fishgame.com. Check out our stuff. Subscribe to our newsletters. You get those 3 times a week. I'll talk about those at the end of the show, like I normally do. And I've got Cal Gonzales. We had a plan to do another kind of a reunited every 6 weeks or every 2 months or something like that podcast with Cal, Chester, and myself on saltwater and just general fishing stuff. And basically, it was going to happen tonight when I recorded this. And lo and behold, Chester had phone problems, so he could not be on the show with us. I called him a few times before we started recording and finally just ran with it. And Cal and I just did a show together. And our show is a pretty good long show. It's pretty full of a lot of good content, and plugging a couple of things in there that we're doing in the magazine. Cal Gonzales is a columnist for us, and a fantastic guy. It just came through a long trial of health problems, and just a great guy. So Cal Gonzales, one of our hotspot contributors, and our columnist for the saltwater. He's our saltwater editor and a columnist at the Texas Fishing Game Magazine. And you can check out his column every month, digitally or in print. Through fishgame.com, you can order a subscription and find him that way. And just, he's got great content, all the issues I read of his. So really looking forward to having him on. And here we go with our interview with Cal Gonzales. Joining me on the phone, Mr. Cal Gonzales, Texas Fishing Game hotspot reporter and columnist. How are you doing tonight, Cal?
Dustin, I'm doing fantastic. As the late, great Dusty Rhodes would have said, if I was doing any better, I'd have to be twins just to handle it, baby.
It always goes back to wrestling. I love you guys.
Of course it does. Hey, man, it's in my soul.
We did the last podcast together with me, you and Chester, was Total Chaos is what we called that episode. And we were at the iCast show with my mobile microphone set up, and I had so much fun with you two. It was ridiculous.
Oh, I had a blast, too. It was great being around you guys. And I'll tell you what made it especially great was I hadn't made it to iCast in 2 years because, as you know, I was sick.
Yes.
So being around the two of you, being around Artie and Neves, I mean, and being around the whole bunch at iCast was just, it was very important to me. I had a great time.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And I'm still feeling good about it.
Oh, that's good.
No.
That's even better. No remorse after that, huh?
Oh, heck no. Oh, heck no.
That's funny. Cal, this is your first official time on the show without having introduced you before in the saltwater series that we're doing. Tell us a little bit about your background in fishing and how you became to work with us at Texas Fish and Game.
Well, I've been fishing since I was about 6 years old. And just like everyone else, the first fish I ever caught was a bluegill on a piece of salami.
Nice.
You know, everyone catch bacon, salami, sausage, hot dog, whatever. And that's the way I got started. And, you know, and I have been fishing ever since. I graduated from freshwater to saltwater when I was 19 and I could drive down to the coast by myself. And I live about an hour away from South Padre Island and about 45 minutes away from Port Mansfield.
Okay.
So it's a pretty cool spot, Edinburgh, Texas.
I'd say.
I just kept honing my skills. I kept learning off of the guides and off of the old timers that I hung around with. I graduated from the University of Texas at Austin in 92 and kept fishing. And I got a degree in English and with a focus on writing. And what happened one time was that I had sent a query. Well, actually, it was a letter to the editor, to Don Zeidel.
Yes.
And he liked both what I was asking about, and he liked my writing style. So he got in touch with me and asked me if I would like to contribute a short little feature to the magazine, and I did. And I didn't know that what he was doing with it was he was auditioning me, and after that he kind of put me on as a full timer. And after a while, when Chester moved up to executive editor, and he made me saltwater editor, and I've been in that spot ever since.
Wow.
You know, and it's been a blast. It's been an absolute blast. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about my craft, both as an angler and as a writer.
Right.
You know, and I hope I've been able to be of service to the readers of Texas Fish and Game magazine. And actually, I'm very proud of the magazine.
Yes, as am I. And I got started at SHOT Show in 2013 with the magazine. I've never really told the story on this podcast, but I was basically meeting with Chester and Roy because they were busy filming, you know, videos at booths and stuff. And I was there with a TV show, a Mac and Prowler TV show that got me started in outdoor media. And basically, I just got to talking to Chester and said, "You got anything for me?" I said, "I'm hungry. I'm ready to learn. You know, I'm ready to I've got some articles I've written." And he said, he gave me the best advice of my life. He was like, "If you want to do it right in this industry, if you want to make it in this industry, do the work you're given first." Kind of like you did, Cal, you know?
Exactly.
And it was one of those things that made all the difference to me, because I was, you know, they had hot spots and they had a vacated spot for doing fishing hot spots. So that's how I started. And to this day, I still do the majority of the freshwater fishing hot spots in the magazine. So
that's awesome.
You know, that's just my contribution to Texas Fish and Game, and I love fishing, you know. So
so do I.
Yeah, you know, and so you and I both share a passion there, and it's just one of those things that. How long have you been a columnist now, full time for the magazine?
Good
now?
Grief, a regular columnist. Oh my gosh, since. I've been with the magazine since about 2002.
Okay, cool.
I started writing regularly in 2008. So,
oh wow.
I've been with the magazine 16 years, and I've been writing the saltwater and the Hotspots Focus for 10 years now.
I was about to say 10 years. It's 2018. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Goodness.
You know, and I want to say this. I really appreciate when I started getting sick. The magazine still kept me.
Sure.
You know, they could have just parted ways with me because and told me, you know, you need to take care of yourself and tend to getting healthy.
Right.
But you know, they kept me around, and I gave them 100% all the time.
Sure.
You know, and now I'm healthy again. I'm getting stronger, and you know, I'm looking forward to expanding my role in the magazine again.
Cool.
You know, I mean, it's a great feeling to know that I'm wanted that way.
Right.
You know,
we're happy to have you back full time.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to be back, dadgummit. I mean, I've been gone a long time, basically.
Right.
But yeah, you know, like you, I love fishing. I mean, I'd rather fish than eat, honestly.
Pretty hardcore, yeah.
Yeah, and I told you that I'm back to hardcore. I told you about that fishing trip I took with a couple of friends of mine where it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon and they were ready to head back and I was still fishing.
Let's stay, guys.
Yeah, and they were ready to leave me on an island and go back. So, I mean, it's a great feeling to have your passion back that way.
No, that's fantastic. And one of the things that we're sponsored with in the magazine is Yo-Zuri, and we just recently got you and Chester some saltwater lures to try out. You want to talk about a little bit of your experience with those?
Oh, Yo-Zuri, great products, top of the line products, and it's unfortunate that they're not used as much on the South Texas coast as they should be.
Right.
Because they produce really well. I've used their poppers. On the water a lot lately because, excuse me, the trout and the redfish have been particularly aggressive this time of year.
Really?
They've been nailing them. They've been climbing all over the poppers. And the great thing is that both their small ones and their larger ones, they have a broader body than the typical popper that other companies produce.
Yes.
So one thing, they move a lot slower.
Yes.
But they throw a lot more water.
I was just going to say that because they're broader, they have more of a splash. Am I saying that right? Okay. Yeah,
they throw a lot more water, and not just with the cup on the mouth.
Right.
But their bodies throw a lot more water in every direction. They make larger ripples in the water, and as you know, fish detect prey through their lateral lines.
Yes.
They basically hear with their bodies. And so that commotion brings them in a lot more easily than the thinner ones. And they attack them a lot more aggressively too. And I've had a lot of success with those especially. They also have their Minnow twitch baits. And what I've gotten into the habit of doing is I'll have two rods rigged, one with the popper and one with the twitch bait, and more often than not, especially with redfish, they have missed the popper, and I'll stick that dadgum thing in a rod holder, grab the minnow bait, and toss it out there right next to the popper, let it sink, and I'll twitch it a few times, and more often than not, I've nailed the redfish.
You'll hook up. Wow, that's great.
They have excellent products, and it's not just limited to their lures. I don't know if you have tried their leader material. But the Yo-Zuri pink fluorocarbon leaders are incredibly abrasion resistant.
Oh, that's good to know. And they have the super braid, which is the one thing that they're promoting this year with us, is the super braid, which is...
I really like the super braid. It lays on the reel nicely. It casts well. It's very abrasion resistant.
Right.
It holds its color a lot better than other braids I've used.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
It's got the ones I use has that lovely aqua blue color to it.
Right. And
it holds the color through extended use.
Okay.
I have like 4 of my reels filled with it. Everything from 30 to 65 pound braid. And I use primarily the 30. And I've been very pleased with the results. Now the leader material, that's something special.
Yes.
I'll tell you a real quick story. There was one day where my wife, a friend of mine, Jim Brewster, and I, we were fishing the old Queen Isabella Causeway for mangrove snapper. And I tossed a live shrimp out there, and lo and behold, a jackfish grabs it.
Oh boy, it's on now.
Yeah, and I'm using my trout tackle, and this jackfish was easily 20 pounds.
Golly.
And he takes off, and in between the pilings goes on a parallel vector with the bridge. So I'm holding it, and he's at a 90-degree angle heading down the dadgum pilings.
Right. And
I worked them back, and would you believe that leader did not break? It did not get cut on the pilings.
That's great.
It was frayed all to perdition and back, but it held.
Sure.
I was very impressed with that. So if anyone were to ask me, would I recommend Yo-Zuri products, I would not hesitate to say yes.
Okay.
Good. I would not hesitate.
No, for sure. No, it's awesome.
You know, they have an excellent line of products. They really do.
That's why I love when I get companies that advertise with us that get product in y'all's hands like that, and really, you know, so you get to really, you know, focus on something and fish with it, and really get to know the product and write about it and everything like that. And that's obviously what they want too. But I mean, that's a great deal.
Yeah. The other quality that both the braid and the leader material have is the ease and strength of their knots.
Oh, cool. That's good to know.
Yeah, you know, I mean, a lot of leader materials, especially monofilament, is very stiff, and it's tough to tie, especially loop knots to your lures.
Right.
You know, it's very difficult to get them to tie properly. The leader material is supple enough that you can tie any knot you want. And the braid it lends itself to knot tying as well, especially line to line knots.
I see.
Usually with braid to mono, I have to tie a uni knot.
Okay.
Which is an excellent knot, but it's a bit bulky, especially in the micro guides that a lot of rods have these days. You know, I prefer to tie what's called a Hufnagel knot, or the new one, the G knot. The ones that have very little resistance going through the guides. But again, depending on the braid you're using, there is a risk of the knot slipping.
Right.
You know, I mean, sometimes you have to do all sorts of different gimmicks. Like you have to, instead of 5 or 7 wraps, you have to do 15 or 20 wraps on the knot. Or I've seen people use Gorilla Glue on the knots. You know, and then you can't cut the tag too closely.
Right.
But the braid, I don't have a problem with either the Hufnagel or with the G-knot. You know,
That's good to know.
You know, so there are a lot of qualities that recommend Yo-Zuri.
Oh, that's good. Tell us, what, this being the time of year in August that we're doing this show, what are you targeting species wise, mainly inshore, and just give us some general fishing strategies for us.
Well, there's always going to be trout and redfish. The high heat we've been having, it's been 90 degrees along the coast lately, and that's unheard of.
Yes, very hot.
With the heat, the fish tend to get a little snarky during the daytime. It's the night fishing for trout and redfish is a little bit better. But we have a variety down here. The flounder are starting to come in. They've been a little bit slow because of the heat.
Sure. But
the mangrove snapper have been tremendous. The mangrove snapper fishing along structure, up in the Brownsville Ship Channel, the port of Brownsville, has been off the hook. Just incredible fishing. And most people think mangrove snapper along the Texas coast think 10 to 12 inch fish. These are 3 to 5 pound beasts.
Nice fighters too.
Oh yeah, I like them because they appeal to my thuggish nature.
Listen to you.
I like a knuckle and skull fight, and mangrove snapper will give you one.
That's why you like wrestling so much, right, Cal?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You like that
I'm
thuggishness.
a brute by nature. I may be an intellectual, but I'm a brute.
I love it. That's great.
You know, I mean, and these mangrove snapper are perfect for it. And not only that, you can catch a lot of them, and they're great eating.
Yes, they are. I caught one. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish your thought.
No, go ahead.
I caught one off of the coast of Bermuda, believe it or not, on the reefs. And, you know, I fished there one time in 2011 when I went on an incentive trip with the company I was with then. And it was one of those things where I was just like, you know, the guide, I told this story on the podcast Chester and I did about things you may not think you'll catch in the Gulf, and the mango snapper was one of them. So we got to talking about it, and I was fishing with a guide and his son. They basically ran the guide service together, a nice lobster-style boat, front hull of boat. And anyway, it was a cool fishing setup, and they had, I don't know, about 8 other people on the boat, and I landed a mangrove snapper, and everybody looked at me funny, and the guide and the son looked at me funny, and I said, what are y'all looking at me? He said, typically most people break off on those. typically they're not brought in, you know. And he said, you must know how to fish. So I was like, yes, I do.
Yeah, yeah. You can't let them have anything. You got to batten down your drag. You got to use 50-pound braid. You got to know how to fight one of those idiots. You know, I mean,
idiots.
I'm serious. Well, yeah. Well, I have a reason to call them idiots. I almost lost a finger to one of those SOBs.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
About 18 years ago, I caught a 6-pound mangrove snapper, and I did not have my dehookers at the time. I didn't expect to catch something like that. So I'm reaching in to get the hook, and sure enough, that beast bites me on the finger.
Naturally, right.
Yeah, I get my finger back. Thank
goodness.
Yeah, you know, and I thought I had cleaned it out well and put a Band-Aid on it. The next morning, I look at my finger, and it looked like a Vienna sausage.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, no.
You know, I'm there going, oh, that's not right.
Something's not right here in this picture.
No,
One of these things does not belong here. Right?
Yeah, so I said, I'm gonna take this to the clinic and see what happens. And you know you're in trouble when the doctor takes a look at your finger and goes, whoa.
Hold on here, man.
Yeah. You know, they ended up giving me a shot. They gave me some Keyflex, and they told me to soak it in hot water. As hot as I could stand, and so I did all that, and yeah, I ended up having to lance it, and that was a nasty experience.
Lord.
But yeah, you know, eventually my finger healed, but man, it hurt like a son of a gun for a while.
I bet.
Yeah, so in my book, they're idiots. Yeah.
But they're a lot of fun. Yeah, a lot of fun to fight. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Another thing we have down here, and I've written quite a bit on this because I love it. We have, when the wind lays down, we have blue water come all the way into the Brazos Santiago jetties.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and with the blue water comes two things, bonita and kingfish.
Which are typically, and I know kingfish now, but a bonita a lot of times is typically an offshore, right? Or more offshore fish. Okay.
Oh, yeah. But you can catch them off the point of the jetties, or you can catch them puttering around between the jetties. Mm-hmm. And the kingfish are quality. I'm talking anywhere from 40 to 48 inches and an occasional 50 plus just to scare the heck out of you. You know,
and they're a good fighter too. I mean,
they greyhound. That's an experience. Back in 2010, I was fishing and catching trout at the base of the jetties, and I see this guy come along, and he's got a 12-foot long ugly stick with a big old Penn 8500 SS on it, and it's loaded with braided line, looked like about 50-pound test, and he's got this huge rattle trap hooked up to it, and he's got a gaff in a backpack and everything, and he was headed to the end of the jetties, and we chat for a little bit, and then he just starts heading down there, and I keep fishing, and 45 minutes later, here he comes again, walking in the opposite direction with that 12-foot long ugly stick and that 8500 SS, only the reel was empty.
Oh my gosh, it spooled him?
And yeah, I asked what happened. He goes, first cast, something grabbed it and just took off, and I couldn't turn him.
It was like a jackfish or something, yeah.
No, it was probably a big king, because he said it spooled him. It spooled him, he said, in less than a minute. You know, and those big SSs, that thing takes about 500 yards of braided line.
I was about to say, that fish burned that reel up.
Oh, yeah, you know, just zoom, thanks for playing. You know, and so he was headed home.
Spool you or school you, as the song goes. And the funny thing is, you know, I thought it said jackfish because I think I got broke off. I got a fish when I was in Louisiana and Venice area. One of the last days, and it was a year ago today, I was making that fishing trip down in Burris, Louisiana for a writer's event, and I had a hold of, so we were doing redfish, popping course for redfish. I had something grab a hold, and I couldn't turn him, and I mean, I'm a pretty good fisherman, but it took it and ran like it was stolen. And I was just sitting there going, if I could only just get a glimpse of what that beast was. You know, it was amazing to me. But I mean, that's why I thought that. But I mean, I speaking of kingfish, one of my coworkers from my previous company was fishing off the jetties, and this kingfish was trying to drag us into the jetties from the guide's boat.
Oh boy! Oh
Smart.
boy.
I mean, smart. Running towards the rocks. And we were doing the best. I mean, I was teaching him, because he wasn't much of a fisherman, and I was teaching him how to play the fish and let it take drag, but don't let it school you, that kind of stuff. And he got it in, and it was probably every bit of 48 inches, I bet. And it was just an amazing fight to see. I mean, it took us lots of time to land that fish, but it was worth it when we did.
Yeah. Well, when you mentioned jackfish, I was another great story. I was fishing with a friend of mine, Craig Self, and Craig, if you're out there and if you ever hear this, I love you, buddy. All right. But
we'll preface it with that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so we were fishing for mangrove snapper, and it had to have been a jackfish. Something grabbed his shrimp and just took off on him. And his reel is screaming. And I said, tighten the drag. He goes, it is tightened. And the thing just kept going. And all of a sudden, the line just popped. It sounded like a 22 going off.
Oh, wow.
And this was 30-pound braid that popped. And he's just kind of standing there with the line just kind of waving in the breeze. And I go, well, that doesn't happen every day.
No.
And he just kind of gives me a look that was pure death.
That's funny.
Oh yeah, but it wasn't funny at the time for Craig.
No,
it kind of left him with half his reel and half the line on the reel, and he was a little bit upset.
That's when a fish schools you. It's not a school of fish; it's a schooled fish.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I have had experiences like that. I mean,
I have too.
As a matter of fact, using a Uzuri popper recently, I was working it back, and I thought it was a big trout because all of a sudden it looked like a toilet flushed underneath the popper.
I've seen that. I've seen that before. I've seen that on a big bull red before. Yep.
Yeah, and I hauled back and set the hook, only there was no resistance when I set the hook. And I'm reeling in, and all I brought back was the leader. The line had been cleanly cut. So I don't know what in the world it was, but it took that popper and it's welcome to it.
Yeah, exactly, because you may not have wanted to fight with that hard hitter. Yeah.
Oh no, because I'm just standing there and I look over at my buddy and he goes, "I wasn't going to net it." Oh, gee, thanks. That's what friends are for, I tell you.
That's good. Yeah, there's your friends, right? You find out who your friends are, like the old country song says.
And I'm looking at the end of the leader, and go, it's like it was cut.
Right.
Nah, the knot slipped, you loser. And they're going, no, there's no curly tail. There's
no curly tail to that line.
Slipping.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were busting my teeth for 45 minutes about the knot.
Gosh.
Hey, Mr. Fishing Expert, tie a knot for me. Shut up.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's giving you a hard time.
The thing I love about fishing is the friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Lord knows what kind of trouble you can get into with your friends on the boat with you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the joys of the journey there, getting out there. And and I'm not against, personal boat fishing or whatever, but it is nice when you're part of a standard sized boat and you're out there and the camaraderie and everything else and the hard times you give each other and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just hard to beat that.
Yeah, I mean, there is something about fishing alone. Sometimes I do have to go by myself, but you're right. I mean, having your friends around you and enjoying the experience and sharing the experience, that's one of the beauties of angling.
Yes.
And I am one who's fished alone.
Sure.
Actually, relatively recently, I go through dialysis. You know that.
Right.
And one time, and I wrote about this. I was in the chair, and there was an old lady in the chair next to me, and she coded.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and it was really quite an experience. It was harrowing. They were working on her, and then they put up the curtains to give her some privacy, and they brought out the paddles.
Sure.
And I don't know if you've ever been exposed to the modern shock paddles. But they're on a portable device, and it has a voice that'll say that it's charging.
Right.
And then it tells you when to discharge.
Mm-hmm.
And then it'll say it's recharging. set voltage meter, and you set the voltage, and it charges, and then it tells you when it's ready.
Yes.
So I'm sitting there, and I keep hearing it, and they kept shocking her and shocking her and shocking. They'd never brought her back.
Uh-huh.
And the EMTs came, and they put her on a stretcher, and they were wheeling her out, and they were doing CPR, you know. And the one thing I'll never forget is that as they were wheeling her out, they had the oxygen mask on her, and she's staring straight up at the ceiling, and I know she wasn't seeing anything.
Right.
You know, that, just imagine sitting in being a dialysis patient and seeing one of the other dialysis patients do that.
Yeah, right in front of you. Yep.
Yeah, I got home that evening, and I didn't care it was 7 o'clock at night. I just grabbed a rod, and I said, I'll be back later. And I drove all the way down to the island, and I drove to this area called the Finger Channels, which is a residential area and with houses on the water.
Right.
And I found a vacant lot, and I just went out there and I started casting. You know, I mean, I wasn't trying to catch anything. I just had to escape and sort my mind out.
Sure.
You know, so there's something, and you know, you can do that fishing by yourself.
Yes, you can.
It gives you a chance to sort stuff out.
Right.
You know, and I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't had that outlet.
Yes.
You know, so that's another part of fishing that I don't know if you'd say I love it, but it's more of a need.
Well, it's
and I think
therapeutic, I mean, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You know?
Yeah, you know, and I know there are a lot of anglers out there who feel the same way. It's not as much that they love it, and they do love it, like I do, but they also need it.
Right.
You're the same way, and Chester, I'm certain, is the same way. It's ingrained into who we are.
Yes.
We fish because that's who we are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, and I hope that I'm able to write in a way that a lot of those anglers understand that I know what they go through and what they think. Yeah. And why they fish.
It's like a special, like camaraderie that we all share that enjoy the outdoors, and especially the fishing culture. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, because it doesn't matter what we catch. It doesn't even matter if we catch.
Yes.
It's just being out there. Mm-hmm. You know, but again, at the same time, we're the kind of people that we could be sitting for 4 hours and not get a bite and start thinking about reeling in and going home. And if we just get a tug, we'll stay another 3 hours.
No, dude, that's so true. Nobody wants to leave when the fishing's hot. Yep.
Yeah. Even if the fishing isn't hot, if it's just
you know what I mean? Yeah. If it could just be a little
turtle.
Tap. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll never
be a turtle bumping the line. You're like, oh, and we'll stay there. You know, I mean, and your wife will be there going, it's nothing. Let's go home.
Let's go home. Yeah, come on. Yeah. What's the deal? Well, it's just like one of the times that I was fishing. I was surf fishing in I think it was Port O'Connor. I was just jerking around, just having fun, while my father-in-law and his friends went out to eat or something. And I came back and I kept on feeling this tapping on my rod like it was going to be something good. I was fishing shrimp, I think. And they finally said, Dustin, it's hardheads. They can't get it in their mouth. That's why. But I'm like, there's something out there and I don't know what it is. It's just
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things, is the mystery of it that compels you to keep going after the fish. So
yeah, and conversely, you see things happen like, how many of us have been on a fishing pier and you see the kid with the Snoopy pole catch a 26-inch trout or a 10-pound sheep's head?
For sure.
And everyone's just watching. I mean, I've seen that happen. I saw my son catch a dadgum 13-pound sheep's head with a Snoopy pole when he was 3 years old. By the time my son was 6 years old, he had caught a 5-pound bass. He had caught a 13-pound sheep's head. He had caught a 15-pound channel cat and a 5-pound trout. All the landmarks that took me until I was about 30 to do, he did by the time he was 5.
Yeah. That's something else. That's a feat of accomplishment right there, for sure.
Yeah, and the frustrating thing is, now that he's 21, I go, you want to go fishing? Oh, fine.
I've already caught all the big ones, Dad. No.
Yeah, what's left to do it? What's left? Well, there's always a 32-inch redfish. Well, he caught a 32-inch redfish when he was 12.
Right. He already bested that one too. Well, to your point about the therapeutic, thing of fishing, a few podcasts ago, I did one with CWO, Crosswater Outfitters, which is my fishing ministry in the freshwater lakes here in Central Texas and East Texas. And what we do is basically minister to soldiers and their families that are Fort Hood based for the most part, that are getting out of the military with the Warriors in Transition Brigade.
That's fantastic.
And it's and there are a lot of fishing ministries around. We're just one of them. We do a few events a year and everything, but we do international students and boat rides and stuff like that too for them.
Yeah.
But basically, to see a soldier come in by himself or with his family, and he's completely, just barred up, just hard, it doesn't want to do anything, doesn't feel, love for anything, and just to see what fishing does to that guy. And we've seen this happen countless times of fishing changing his outlook and changing his mindset and changing his life. And we've got testimonials all over the Crosswater Outfitters website of guys saying this weekend may have saved my life. This weekend meant so much to me because I got to spend time with my family again. Yeah, well, it's powerful.
Yeah, Dustin, there is a serenity on the water.
Sure. Yep. I've always felt that. As long as I've been alive, I've always felt that serenity.
And there is a serenity and an ease of pace that you will not find just about anywhere else, except maybe in the woods.
Yeah, and hunting and stuff. Sure.
Except maybe in the woods while you're hunting. But you are forced to slow down when you fish.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about tournament anglers who run and gun. I mean, just the rank and file angler, you and me. You're forced to slow down. You're forced to pay attention because in my regular life, me, I'm 100 miles an hour with my hair on fire. But when I
only
fish,
speed Cal has is 100 miles an hour.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
One speed, one direction. That's how I've always lived my life.
That's awesome.
Except when I fish.
Yes.
When I fish, I have to slow down. Mm-hmm. I have to focus, and I have to be deliberate. That doesn't mean in my regular life I'm sloppy and reckless, but
sure,
you have to take yourself to a different plane of thought when you fish.
Yes.
And there is a comfort to that. There is therapy to that. Because you're not turning off your brain, but when you slow down, it helps you align your thoughts. It helps you collate everything you're thinking and feeling.
Yes.
And at least for that moment, everything is aligned and makes sense.
All that matters is all that matters, right?
Exactly.
Is that a good way to say it? That's kind of philosophical and deep for this podcast, but there you go.
Yeah, and then you go back to the hectic part of your life,
Right. Right. Then
it's always going to be there, but when you're fishing, you're fishing.
Right.
And that's all there is to it. That's the beauty of it. That's what I love about it. And you can share it with your friends, or you can keep it all to yourself.
Well, that's the thing, Cal, that I forget sometimes, and I'm glad you reminded me of this because there's a show I've been on before and a show that's been on our show before, Cast Blast Grill Chill podcast, and I love those guys, Trevor and Jeremy, and they're all about the lifestyle, which is all about what I'm into, because they've taught me to slow down and enjoy the moments that I'm not out there hunting and fishing, but that I'm enjoying my food of my catch, the fruit of my labor.
Yeah.
That I'm enjoying, because I'm a go kind of guy, and I catch it, kill it, whatever the case may be. But to me, the older I get, and I know you're older than I am, it's the older I get, the more I realize that it's in the space, it's in the moments, it's in the pause where life really matters the most. Yeah,
because we live. This is how I explain it to my theater students when we do a play. That play is just a moment in the character's life. Once we get to the end of the play, that character essentially goes on living, and that's how we are. All these are moments in our life.
Yes.
And then we actually do most of our living in between the moments.
Yeah.
That's where fishing comes in.
Yep.
Fishing is essentially in between the moments because catching the fish is just an intense moment, and then you go back to waiting until the next fish. you know, it's kind of a cool way to live. You know, I mean, unless the fishing stinks, then it's no fun.
Well, it's kind of like I was in college. When I was in college, I had a friend, and I think he's a corporate pilot now. I've lost touch with him over the years, but he was doing his flight training stuff when we were in college and getting a business degree. And he basically said, you know, flying is basically, you know, hours of boredom with minutes of sheer terror.
Yeah,
and,
that's how life is in general, you know.
That's, you know, but that fishing, it kind of correlates to that in the regard that it's something that, you know, that has minutes of just pure thrill excitement, but that's not what it's all about, you know. And that's the one thing I'm trying to teach my son, who just turned 9 two days ago, you know, that it's not all about that we're constantly catching. Because one of the favorite things I do here in freshwater country is I take him down to just go, and I talked about this in our podcast together with Chester before, just to go jerk perch, just to go, because that is a skill. You got to have the hook small enough, you got to have the bait small enough, you got to, you know, and just catch bait fish, and just to show him the art of what we're trying to do, and the enjoyment of the recreation is what I'm trying to get at.
That's exactly right. You know, I mean, what was it what is that old saying that fishing is a jerk on one end waiting of the line, waiting for a jerk on the other?
That's a good one. I'd heard that one before.
You know, that's pretty. That's very accurate. You know, I mean, and you know, and think about this: a fish has a reptilian brain.
Yes.
Okay, it's just pretty straightforward. It's eat, it's flee, it's make other fish.
Yes.
And they can make the smartest creature on the face of the earth, the only creature on the face of the earth with self-consciousness, the ability to create atomic bombs, spaceships, cures for polio, and they can make that creature look like a complete and utter boob.
Yeah, an utter fool, exactly. Yeah.
Ain't life great? You know?
That's great.
You know?
That's a lot of fun.
And they can make us look, we come home with no fish.
Yep.
And of course you have to face the wife with that. Well, where are the fish?
Where you been?
Yeah. You know, they weren't biting. Again? And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there listening who've heard that. Where are the fish? They weren't biting. Again?
I've been there before. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
If you fish for any serious time, then you've heard that before from your significant other, for sure, whether you're a man or a woman.
Yeah, so you know what you do when that happens?
What?
You put down your rod, you put down your reel, and you go up to her in all your stinky, fish-smelly glory, and you give her a big old hug.
There you go.
Yeah, gross them out.
Gross them out. Hey, that's one way to get out of having to explain where you were, because you don't, you know, you don't smell like anything else. You smell like fish, so at least you know, have fought the good fight. You know, to at least smell like shad or bait fish or pogies or whatever. You know,
or gulp,
especially gulp. I'm sorry, gulp.
Oh, get away! No, I want a kiss.
I want a kiss now, honey. I gave you a hug. Yeah, that's one of the things we've got to be creative on as guys sometimes, right?
Yeah, use your funk as a weapon.
I love it. That's great, Cal. I love that.
Yeah. Husbands out there who want to avoid having to explain why they didn't catch anything, use your funk as a weapon.
I love it. That's sound advice too. That's great. What is your typical? Are you typical mainly live bait or lures or both when you fish?
I'll use whatever works. If the fish tell me that they want live bait, I'll use live bait. I'm not proud. You know, I mean,
you're not one of these trout snobs like we talked about in the last show we did.
Oh no.
That's good to know.
Hey, if those, you know, I mean, I'm serious. I mean, you know, I mean, there is a skill that goes to fishing with bait as well.
Yes.
You know, everyone. You know, you don't just buy $100 worth of croaker, go out and throw it out, and you're going to load the boat. You know, if the fish aren't there, they're not going to instantly appear.
That's right.
If the fish aren't actively feeding, they're not going to eat a croaker just because it's a croaker. There is a certain skill that goes to fishing with bait.
Right.
You know, I mean,
it is.
You know, and everyone makes it sound like it's a no-brainer. You know, I actually had a guide once ask me, "Well, what do you think of someone who doesn't fish regularly buying a bunch of croaker, going out and catching a limit?" And I said, I say good for him.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, these fish don't have anyone's particular brand on them.
Right.
You know, and not everyone wants to go out there and treat it as some great challenge. They just want to go out there and catch a few fish.
And have fun,
God bless them.
Sure.
If that means they use live bait, or if that means that they catch it on a Frito.
Yep.
Or a Cheeto. My son once caught a trout on a Cheeto.
That's funny.
More power to them.
Right, yeah.
I mean, good grief. You don't hear people judge the walleye anglers who use leeches.
Yeah, that's true. That's a really good point. We don't cover that much here in Texas, but still, that's a really good point.
Yeah, we have some walleye up here. We have them in Canyon. I think we have them in Meredith or Medina. We have them around here.
Yeah.
No one sniffs. Oh, well, you're not sporting. You try saying that to walleye angler, and they'll look at you like you're a fool.
You use what works, man. There's nothing wrong
exactly.
with that. I like you. I get a lot of people that tell me that live baits for cheaters and this, that, and the other. Man, you got to fish it just as hard as you do an artificial in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
It may be not as hard as you've got to have a little more technique with an artificial, but I'm just saying, don't knock, just can't we all get along? That's what I've always said on the show. Nobody's a croaker soaker because they fish with live bait. I hate that word even. I hate that phrase, but anyway.
I have actually seen fights break out over people using croaker for bait.
That's crazy, really? Wow.
It is. I have seen that. I have seen all hell break loose over it more than once.
Gosh.
Just like I have seen people get upset because someone kept a 25+ inch trout for the cleaning table.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at it, it's none of anyone's business what a person uses for bait, as long as they're within the lines of the law.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what a person keeps as long as the fish is legal to keep.
Right.
It's nobody's business. It really does annoy me to see some of these effete snobs harass anglers who are fishing the way they fish and keeping the fish they keep.
Yep. It
really annoys me. And and I have actually said that to people. Well, it's none of your business.
Yeah, sure.
As long as the fish that he's keeping is legal,
yes,
it's none of your business. As long as the bait he's using is legal, it's none of your business.
Can't we all just have fun?
Exactly.
Just, where does fishing have to be so violently competitive and such a big deal about? It was designed. Obviously it comes from a lot of long lineage of history, but the recreational fishing that we do is designed just for that recreation. It's not. Yeah. It's people get so personal about it, and it's just crazy.
Yeah. One of the starkest memories I have. In March, the sheep's head are on their spawning run down here, and you can catch a limit very quickly. And these are nice sheep's head, 18 to 20 inches,
nice.
Big old beasts.
Yeah.
One time I went out and I caught my limit, and my buddy Jim Brewster caught his limit, and we were at the cleaning table and I was filleting them. And this was kind of a blustery March day. And all of a sudden this other boat comes in, and it was this man and his buddy, and his buddy's, 8 or 9-year-old son. And they came in, they had gone out looking for trout, and they caught one trout.
Yep. And
they come out and they're proud of that trout. And they walk up and they see me filleting these sheep's head, and they called them trash fish. And the guy's buddy said, I wouldn't waste any time on any one of the trash fish. Mm-hmm. Well, his son is standing there, eyes the size of saucers, looking at this cooler full of these big old striped toothy fish that we were cleaning.
Sure.
Now, which do you think he would have preferred to do? Spend the whole day chasing that one stupid trout, or having his line stretched by sheep's head after sheep's head? You tell me, which would that little kid have preferred?
And catch a whole cooler full of them to take home and eat. Yep.
And have that memory. Mm-hmm. Which would he have preferred?
Obviously, the sheep's head, yeah. So.
Yeah. My son actually had a memory, and he wrote an essay about it that actually got him an A. One time, I had messed up on the tide chart, and we went night fishing, and it was an outgoing tide.
Oops.
And it bottomed out just as we launched the boat.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so there was nothing. There was nothing out there. Well, we found a hole with nothing but 3 to 5 pound hardhead catfish.
Mm-hmm.
We spent 3 hours, and I was going to pull up the anchor and go, no, let's stay here. Let's catch catfish.
There's action.
Yeah, so we stayed there for 3 hours and caught catfish after cat. Used up a whole quart of live shrimp on hardhead catfish.
Now, a lot of people say that was a waste, but what you were after was entertainment value.
Yeah, my son had a blast. Yeah. An absolute blast.
You gotta watch those, but still.
Yeah. But he talked about that fishing trip for months, and he wrote an essay about it. You know, because all he cared about was that he was catching these big old catfish, and he was having a ball.
Is it safe to say that hardheads are trash fish, or should I just stay away from that completely? Because I don't think sheep's head are at all.
Hardheads are an interesting thing, because most of the time, what do we call them? Turd burglars.
Turd burglars. I've never heard that one before, but
that's what we
I've
call
heard
them
some
down
more
here.
graphic descriptions of them from some of the guides I fish with down there. But.
Yeah, rustlers, but we call them turd burglars down here.
Turd burglars.
And but when the fish aren't biting, and that's the only thing you're catching, they're suddenly very beautiful.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
And I've eaten a couple of them. They're not that bad. They're a pain in the butt to clean, but they're not.
Sure, yeah.
They're edible.
It's the hardest fish I've ever stuck a knife in. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So
heck, my wife once caught a toadfish that was about 16 inches long, and we're looking at that big ugly sucker, and I go, he's actually got some nice flanks on him.
Yeah, there you go.
So we kept him, and I filleted him out, and Sandy couldn't believe I did that. But I filleted it out, and she wouldn't eat it, but I fried it up and tried it. It was actually quite
pretty good. Yeah, even though it was really ugly.
Very good.
Yeah. No, it's funny.
Heck, I've seen other people keep them. I've seen the Filipinos keep them and keep the robin fish, and they keep just about everything they catch that everyone else would turn their nose up at.
Just to mention that the what was it, the robin fish? Is that what you said?
Yeah, the funky suckers with the legs.
Yeah. So I believe Cindy Delana, one of our gals that handles our social media for us, she lives outside of Texas, and she caught one the other day, and she was just blown away that she was tagging Chester and tagging me and everybody else in there. It's like, hey, look, I caught one of these. You talked about them in an article the other day, and I caught one, and I'm gonna eat it. She was so proud of that fish, and I'm like, okay,
I remember reading that article.
Yeah, more power to you, dude. I mean, that's great.
And it made me feel so much better that I did that you guys wrote that article, because I go, okay, see, I showed it to my wife. I go, see, I'm not the only one.
That's right. You're not alone.
And she goes, well, there are weirdos in this world, so we're weirdos.
Yeah. That's funny.
So we're weirdos, dadgummit.
That's great.
But then again, every angler, you think about it, every fisherman has got to be a little bit weird, because we are willing to stand out there in all kinds of weather. And we're willing to stand out there and wait for hours on end, sometimes even days,
and fight the good fight. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, to catch a fish. And we will get up at god awful a.m. in the morning and stay out until god awful 30 in the evening,
right,
to catch the fish.
And buy our extreme coolers and everything else that we had to
we will buy extreme coolers. We will wear the pink Columbia shirt. And we will,
shirt,
we will put ourselves through indignities beyond description for a fish.
You're right. We're pretty hardcore, man. So.
Yeah, and you know what? We love every second of it.
Yes, we do. That's for certain.
And our wives will stand there, and our friends will stand there, and they'll just shake their heads. And everyone knows that look on their face.
In disbelief.
That squint-eyed, mouth slightly open, just shaking their head and sighing at the same time.
Yep, that's right.
And we will look them in the eye, and we will stand straight, and we will square up our chin and say, by God, I'm a fisherman.
Oh, that's great.
Ain't life grand?
That's right. That's right. Well, Cal, I've had you on here for a while. I just I don't want to keep you too much longer. Is there anything you'd like to close with as far as a message to our audience, and then how to find you on social?
Well, on social, I'm Calixto Gonzales on Facebook, and I'm also Calixto Gonzales on Twitter. And of course, I'm in the magazine, so you can find me that way
every month.
Yeah, if you follow me on Twitter, follow me at your peril.
At your own risk.
Yeah, I've been known to tell people. I have been known to tell people, like I told a very prominent person recently, something along the lines of, "Why don't they pull their bottom lip up over their forehead and swallow real hard?"
I love that one.
You know, but if there was one message I would tell you guys is, always love it.
Yes.
Always love fishing. You know, and don't. Just fishing is the success. Mm-hmm. Catching something, that's just icing on the cake.
Sure.
You know, and don't focus on the icing, because then you miss the whole cake.
Right. And one of the things that's unique about your situation is you were off the water for a while because of your medical, situation. I'm sure you have a heart of gratefulness now that you get to continue to, to live out that outdoor lifestyle. Yeah.
Well, the first time I was back on the water in a long time was with my dear friend Blake Hensler and Captain Rudy Garza, an excellent guide in the Port Isabel, South Padre Island area, if anyone ever needs one. And we were back on the water, and that first fish I caught after, I don't know, a year was a very seminal and emotional moment for me.
Wow, that's great.
Because I knew I was back. Just like when I walked through the doors at ICAST, and I knew I was back.
Yeah.
It was very important to me.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah. I just loved being on the water, though.
Oh, that's great. I think a lot of us share that sentiment as well. So.
Yeah. I even loved it when the pelican bombed me. I was there. I looked at Blake, get a picture of that.
The pelican.
Posted on Facebook. I'm back.
I'm back. That's right. That's funny.
Yeah, well, that's me.
That's great. I've loved having you on. You've been a great guest, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot, man. Thank you for having me on. Dustin, you're a great guy. And Chester, if you're out there, we're thinking of you, brother. We love you.
And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cal Gonzales. Check him out. Awesome guy. Really fun guy to talk to. I mean, just a blast to interview. Love this guy. And again, if you've not done so already, please subscribe to our newsletter. You get new content every 3 days of the week. So you get a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tactical and Practical Tuesday, Wildlife Wednesday, and the Thursday Texas State of the Outdoor Nation. Those are all free. It's kind of a mini version of the magazine, if you will, or as we say, it's kind of the appetizer for what we have in the magazine with the different things that are going on there. So, it's kind of a foretaste of the feast to come, if you will, at fishgame.com, of all the blog posts and stuff. And I write quite a few of those, as well as the different things that I'm involved in there. So. Also, if you've not done so already, please check out our my online course if you want to be successful in the outdoor industry at all, which is a hard industry to break into and be very successful in. I've got an online course called Finding Success in the Outdoor Industry, and I wrote an ebook that is free right now if you check out my social media stuff, called Achieving Success in the Outdoor Industry. And they're both, the ebook's free to download for a limited time still, and the actual course is available on my website at dustinsprojects.com. That's dustinsprojects.com, all one word. And you can check out all my other stuff, articles I've written for Texas Fish and Game, other podcasts I've done. All of our podcasts are on there. And then just got some really rocking things going on right now. So I really hope you'll check those out. If you want to be a pro staff, if you want to get sponsorship, if you want any of that stuff that I do for a living, besides doing this podcast, it's just one of those things that I think you'll enjoy and get a lot out of. So be sure to check that out. Again, that's at dustinsprojects.com. Feel free to visit us at fishgame.com. Check out all of our stuff, and just really having a great time doing these shows. These are just kind of a joy of my week when I get to sit down in front of this microphone and preach it, baby, talking to you guys in the Texas Outdoor Nation and beyond about all the different things that we do in the outdoors, in the woods, in the water, and on the water. So anyway, thank you guys again for watching, reading, and listening. Have an awesome day in the outdoors. We'll see you next time.
What I do.